Hey everybody, it's Josh.
And this is CJ.
And we have a Fantastic Four trailer breakdown for you guys. Actually, our second one. It's really interesting.
Yeah, we had to retake this. My computer messed up. My microphone is dumb, but I've taken measures to make sure it doesn't happen again. So, big thing, Fantastic Four trailer.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, we actually heard about this last week. We were reached out to by a representative from, not necessarily Fox, but someone who I guess was working with them.
They're marketing people.
Yeah, that's why the trailer is up, and it's in a playlist, but it's on our channel page. They asked us to host it. They told us it was going to come out today. We were told to sit on the information, but Campea busted that wide open last night so that everyone knew it was coming. Yeah, he's got AMC to back him
Yeah, I
up,
don't think we could survive Fox lawyers. So
we would not. We're dangling. We've already got a strike from them, so... But yes, so lots of good images from this trailer. We've got some that are just interesting that are going to be pointed out, and there are some that we're actually going to discuss a little more in depth.
Yeah.
So Josh, anything to say before we get started?
Stay to the end, because at the end after we finish quote unquote breaking down the scenes, we're gonna talk more about our overall thoughts and things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. Thoughts about the movie, thoughts about stuff so far. So, first screenshot here, it's in the very beginning where Reggie Cathy is, of course, narrating about Discovery and humans, and we get this picture of a house that says Grim Salvage on the side. Now, this is just, this isn't one of the ones we're going to discuss in depth. I thought it was just kind of cool. Grim Salvage, and this kind of ties in with a later shot.
Gives some backstory to him, which is nice.
Yeah. In salvage operations, they're usually not, like, the most money-making schemes, so Ben probably grew up a little bit hardscrabble, like the comics, which is good.
Yeah.
So the next shot is, of course,
it's
Interstellar. This is kind of what sets up first in your mind that this is going to have an interstellar vibe, other than the shot of space. But so it's really interesting that you find out that Johnny is driving this car later. But it's the next shot, of course, is a dusty road. But here, the next screenshot we have is a young Ben and a young Reed experimenting on stuff. Now, Josh, what do you think this could be?
Okay.
This device.
Looking at the science mumbo jumbo here, it's first glance I want to say it's some kind of electromagnet. After watching the trailer and stuff, second glance, this is a early form of the interdimensional teleportation transportation device that they end up using in the future for the end zone. Like, this is definitely like stage one of that. I will get more into that when we see like the teleportation device they use later. But pay attention to the lightning arcs in there, the look and design of it, and just, Reed's a super genius. So maybe that's what they're trying to get across here. And also it's been said that, him doing research in this certain area is why he gets brought in. So
yeah, I was going to say that's actually a really interesting point that could be, why he's brought in. But real quick here, props on finding an actor that looks a lot like Miles Teller for this kid. Not so much with Ben Grimm. That kid doesn't really look like Jamie Bell, but... this kid looks exactly like Miles Teller, as you'll see later. And now we get the, I guess, kind of Captain America-inspired pods here, although they're, like, worse tech than Captain America. You see there's these astronauts, I guess you say, it's kind of like a space suit here. There's an American flag. So my guess is this would be the first version of the mission into the end zone, and maybe that's why Reed and the Four have to go in to, find things, but... this could be a first mission here.
I think this might be a flashback to some degree.
True.
Because you did point out that the technology looks a bit older.
Yep.
Also, I feel like they might try fitting this in with, like after the moon, like we decided to go farther using different techniques. Because he has an American flag with him. We saw, first off, these are different suits than what, the Four, quote unquote, wear when they go with Doctor Doom and all that stuff before they become those characters, per se. But, the whole American flag thing, that sound like, when I think about that, there just thinks of, like, they're trying to, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know the right word for it. Claim, just like, just like the whole...
Mark our territory.
Just like the whole space race thing and all that stuff. Like, it's very interesting.
Yeah, and so the next shot we get is really interesting, because this is kind of...
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I just remembered they said... when they're talking about the movie before in interviews and stuff, they already knew about the end zone. So maybe this is them like discovering the end zone.
Yeah, maybe this is their first foray, and you can see it kind of looks military in nature, which kind of ties into the next thing, which is a bunch of it looks like high-ranking officers from different branches of the military. You see Army, Air Force, probably some Marines in there. Coast Guard maybe too, Navy, and civilians too. So a lot of high-ranking, probably Defense Department personnel here, looking at screens of what seems to be the later layout of the end zone device, and I'll mention that again when we actually see the picture. The next shot in the trailer from this is them also looking at that screen, and this is one of the ones I really want to talk about. This next shot we've got is Miles Teller as Reed looking at the facility where they're going to be working, and this just, to me, they've captured the essence of the character. Because Reed is a scientist, he's supposed to be filled, and scientists, you're supposed to be very curious and filled with this sort of wonder. And just in this scene, the very 5 seconds we got, Reed definitely fills that requirement. He's just got this sense of wonder. He's looking around, and the look they've got for him too, he kind of looks kind of geeky, but the way he's playing the whole thing just plays very well into what I would want to see out of a Reed Richards. So color me surprised there. Do you have any thoughts on that, Josh?
Last time we recorded, I went on a 5-minute spill. I'm going to keep that down. But what I do want to say is that a lot of people judge Miles Teller. A lot of people judge the movie prematurely before seeing anything. Now we're seeing something. And what I see here is Miles Teller channeling a lot of the type of acting he did for the movie Whiplash, which he's gotten a lot of acclaim for. So I'm expecting a much more dramatic-oriented performance from him. I feel like a lot of the comedy will be saved for Michael B. Jordan's Johnny Storm, which makes total sense for the characters. But I totally agree with you, CJ. I feel like definitely, there's just in this shot, just a screenshot. Good job on the screenshot, CJ. But he just looks amazed. He looks like a kid in a candy store.
And that's what he's supposed to.
He's
be.
In love. Like it's just like not he's in love with like a woman, but it's like if it's like if you were to throw someone into the field of their dreams, their passion, that's just the look he has on his face.
I agree. So the next shot is interesting because there's something to point out. This is kind of a series of shots leading up to, I guess, shit going down. But we see Reed here, we see Kate Mara in the trailer, and of course when she turns around, she's looking at a screen. She's diligently working. And you mentioned last time, Josh, she might be tracking end zone energy, and that's what most of these marks are. But there's this red dot here, and that could be. I've seen some people say it could be an Easter egg, but it could be, in my eyes, Latveria. It's Eastern European. It's actually, very close to, the Balkans, in that kind of area near Greece.
Yeah.
So it could be Latveria, which would be a big thing.
I definitely think it is. Also,
I've heard. I was going to say I've heard a lot of people doubting that Latveria would even be in this movie because Josh Trank hates the source material.
We'll get into a bit of the whole source material thing when we give our final thoughts. But I thought it was interesting. They filmed this movie, correct me if I'm wrong, New Orleans, correct? A little bit? Louisiana?
Part of it was Louisiana, yes.
If you look at the top left screen, that also has the red dot at what may be Latveria. Looks like Louisiana is focused also.
Maybe Louisiana, maybe Texas, because I think Louisiana is a little more eastern than that.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell with how that target thing is.
Yeah, how spread it is. But lots of places in South America, which might tie into another shot later. This is our first shot of Ben Grimm. He, oddly enough, has no eyebrows, which is interesting.
Maybe.
He's out of school. Yeah, he's graduating. But no, playing baseball. He looks big. Jamie Bell looks like he bulked up a little bit for this role. But just you see the toughness in his face. I think this is definitely, in each of these shots, they're trying to set up the characters. So we see the wonderment of Reed, the kind of, focused determination of Sue. We see the toughness of Ben, and then in the next shot we get Michael B. Jordan as Johnny Storm.
Yeah, I like how you broke that down, CJ.
Yeah, and I mean we see the thank you. We see Johnny working on a car, and this is kind of cool because Josh, you mentioned Johnny actually has a connection there from the comics.
In the comics, Johnny is well known for his love of cars. He was a mechanic for a while. He had a mechanic business for a while in the comics. But one thing the previous movies, if I remember correctly, didn't really show was that side of him. He's a big car buff.
They kind of mentioned in passing he's a pilot, but they didn't really go into detail. But so we kind of set that up there.
So this already is more faithful to the comic representation of the character, not the appearance of the character, but the character himself, than the past movies.
I would agree. But so in this shot, just a passing shot, we see people getting ready for the expedition, and this kind of looks to be the same, maybe the same kind of suit that Reed was wearing in later shots, which we'll discuss. But these people getting ready to go into the teleporter. Reggie Cathy, great actor. Definitely go check him out in House of Cards. He is incredible. Very underrated, in my opinion. He can definitely pull this role off.
I forgot he was in this movie until literally watching this trailer.
The modern end zone teleporter. Not sure how many people it might fit in there. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 6. But these much more updated, and we see another, like Josh, your theory might be correct. The circular thing kind of does look very similar to what Reed was building in his basement.
Yeah,
So
and the arcing, the light. If you don't know what I mean by arcing, by the way, I mean like the electricity, the lightning, whatever you want to call it, that you see around. It's similar.
So, but then the next shot is where shit goes down, and the music they did with this too. But when I first looked at this, it was chilling because you see the blood all over his suit. Whose blood is that? We really don't know. It could be Ben's, honestly, maybe because if he turns into a giant rock, it could be just one of the other explorers. But he does look like he was part of that team that was walking up to the suit. You see his glasses are broken. He's crawling through the rubble. So something went horribly wrong here. And then this next shot I only included because I wanted to make a joke about, where's Bane at? Where's Bane? I expect his plane to swoop in on this one any second now.
I think it's Eastern Europe, like heading
It
to
could
Latin
be.
area. The only reason I say that is because this to me feels like a kind of end shot.
Yeah.
First off, this isn't a regular commercial plane. This is more like a private plane.
Yeah, that looks like a military plane.
Or a military plane. So, and the landscape and all that stuff, that's not really something you find here in the United States. And this movie seems like it's going to be focused a lot in either, I guess, Louisiana or New York. Besides the reported ending that has Doctor Doom going back to Latveria to rule his people. So,
well, I don't know if that was reported. I think that was my theory. But please tell me if that was actually reported. Now, this is a shot of Reed here, and it looks weird because it looks like, just given the sky, it could be in that same area. I know that's a definite extrapolation just because, gray skies happen everywhere. But you mentioned something interesting that this might relate to, Josh.
Yeah, in the Ultimate Fantastic Four comics, and this movie is heavily influenced by that, just origin-wise and everything else. But all four of them end up getting teleported. Well, technically Dr. Doom also. But they all get teleported and to different locations. And I'm thinking maybe this is after the experiment, and Reed's teleported, obviously, far away from everybody else.
And it's
Because he
interesting
has this confused look on his face. So
yeah, and what he's wearing too kind of looks like rugged, like it's disheveled. It looks almost like it might be like part of his suit later, but it also just looks kind of messed up and ripped up. But maybe in the final scene, after the final scene, they're scattered across the world.
Yeah.
But and we see here, this is a big shot. The thing is breaking out of his rock form, and this kind of ties into something that Josh you mentioned later. But I guess the big takeaway from this is the thing is full CG, which is required in my opinion. I don't think Michael Chiklis, if you tried to do that again, it would just look bad. So I think a full CG thing is definitely necessary. Any comments here, Josh?
Nope, not yet.
All right, and this is an interesting shot. Just mention it briefly in passing. Kate Mara's blonde. It might have been the lighting in the other shots, but it didn't look like she was blonde there, so maybe the accident gives her blonde hair or something. But this is Michael B. Jordan. She's kind of cradling in her arms. I mean, you can kind of tell by the hair. But she's also, it either looks like she's been crying, or that looks more red than crying. That looks like she's bleeding around her eyes, which, as we've seen, could be a result of her overusing her powers, could be something from the end zone. But this is definitely the end zone. You look at the black rocks in the back. The end zone is not a fun place to be. This seems to be later in the movie because she's wearing her containment suit. And this is an interesting shot. This is the first time we see Johnny flame on. He walks into a hallway and finds a bunch of dead soldiers. And, and this, I think, ties into maybe Doom breaking out of the facility. But this is a really interesting shot. And this one I want to discuss. This would appear to be New York City. Well, it is New York City, you can tell. This would appear to be the end zone trying to break through over New York City, which seems to confirm the report that came out. And was it 4chan that the report came out on? There was a report. There were some.
It was 4chan.
There were some Fantastic Four details that leaked a while ago.
Yeah, that was
mentioned this exact thing: the portal opening over New York City, or the portal opening on New York City. We reported on it. Go check out that video. I'll link it in the description. This is kind of interesting. And it seems like New York City is threatened, of course, as New York City is always threatened, but by the end zone. So maybe the credibility of 4chan going up just a little bit. Maybe not.
We'll find out.
The next shot is interesting. It kind of shows maybe that first mission. Maybe this is still the flashback of people in the end zone. They lost the one with the flag, I guess, but you can definitely see this is the end zone, the black rocks, the igneous, some magma there.
You know what would be really cool?
What What would be cool?
If this was a flashback, actually, and they showed them being killed by Annihilus and his people.
That'd be really cool. Or if they just die somehow.
Because if you guys don't know, in the comics, the End Zone is not some barren wasteland. It actually does have inhabitants. So.
Yep. But so really cool here. I think this is our only shot in the trailer of Doctor Doom. Maybe there's another shot, but we see here. Look at the light. One, look at what's happening to the soldiers. It had been reported also in that 4chan post that Doctor Doom has some sort of electromechanical powers. But also just look at the light reflecting off of his face. One, he's bald. It looks like his hair has been burned off. It doesn't look like he has ears, which could have been a result of a fire or a horrible accident. But look at the way the light is reflecting off of his head. That's not normal. Skin doesn't usually, diffuse that much light. It usually absorbs some of it, and then it'll reflect some back. This is someone with a metal face.
Yes.
Or at least something that looks like metal on their face. So it seems like he might be going the organic metal route again with Doom.
Which makes sense.
And this is probably one of my favorite shots of the entire trailer. We see Johnny Flamond and Sue with her powers, and we get a good example of the effects. And it seems like I'm interested to see how Johnny's suit works, because it seems like everyone's suit has something to do, and I'll mention that later. But you definitely see Sue is kind of the power effects for her power are very cool. But it also almost looks like Johnny is attacking Sue here, or firing a flame blast here at her. If you look at the trailer,
they're having a little sibling tiff.
Maybe, but it also looks, if you look at the lighting, maybe this is in the aftermath of Doom breaking out, or maybe this is in the aftermath of the experiment's failure. We don't know. And here we get a good look at Reed's suit, and it looks like he's using his powers. But just the design of his suit, and I'll mention that in a little bit, also designed for what he's supposed to do. And this is interesting, Josh. And you have an interesting theory here. My original theory was that this was Doom on the table. And they seem to be monitoring his levels here. It seems to be some military personnel in the background, or at least government personnel. But you see Reed in his suit talking to somebody in the trailer. So I think this is Doom. Josh, who do you think this is?
I think this is Ben Grimm, a.k.a. The Thing. Reason why, we never see him in a containment suit whatsoever. So as far as I know, he may have just stayed in the suit they gave him. Also, this kind of suit, it looks like the person on the table has on. He's first on strapped onto the table. He's not just on the table. He's strapped onto the table. So what I think my theory is right now is that obviously we know Ben Grimm will become the Thing. So probably right now they're all thinking he's really sick or something. He's dying from the exposure to the End Zone, and they're trying to cure him. The main thing that makes me think this is that when we see the metamorphosis scene where he's breaking out of the rocks and he's the Thing, I looked at the lights around him and also like the red beeping, I'm guessing some sort of security thing on the wall. That's both present in this scene. So I'm thinking maybe instead of actually dying, Ben Grimm just starts the metamorphosis, become the Thing.
And now we have the money shot. This is your Avengers circle shot.
Your thumbnail.
This is the thumbnail, the Fantastic Four all standing and just staring at the end zone as it kind of pulsates, and it looks like this might be the portal to New York City. Couple quick takeaways. The Thing is naked.
Oh, yeah.
He's not wearing shorts. But you see the CG, the craggly. But also the thing I want to point out here is Kate Mara looks very good. But Reed Richards, his suit seems to have coils, almost like a slinky. So it looks like it is designed for him to expand. Or it's designed for him to stretch, which kind of makes sense. And it's kind of also the same way you see Johnny's suit has vents and would look like maybe like gas things. So maybe that is a way for him to fuel his power through the suit or something like that. Fuel his flames through the suit.
That's an interesting theory.
It's really interesting here. And then we have the logo, of course. The logo is very nice. Uses the 4 as an A, which seems to be going around recently. Square logo. So, Josh, what are your thoughts on this trailer?
On the trailer, I think it was great. The reason why I say that is because, first and foremost, I've been saying for months now, let's wait until we see something like a trailer to judge the movie. And what I got out of this movie is that even though there's that whole rumored thing, not even rumored, I guess supposedly everybody thinks that Josh Trank is against source material. I don't think that. I just think he's trying to tell his own story. Just like the Fantastic Four movies made by Fox, they take influence from the comics, but they really just want to tell their own story. Sam Raimi was the same way with the Spider-Man movies. and yada yada. They just want to have their own touch on it without being kind of, I guess, limited as a director may feel by, the comics, like if they have to do a direct adaptation or anything like that. But anyways, what I want to really say here is that I feel like this trailer captured to me the essence of Fantastic Four. They're not superheroes. They're explorers. They're scientists. They just happened to get into an experiment that gave them abilities. But even after that, they still continue as scientists, explorers. And a lot of their biggest thing has been that, like scientific discovery, advancement, exploring. Exploring is like the main thing. They're explorers before anything else. And I'm really getting that feeling in this movie that they're all going to be scientists, explorers, that kind of thing first, especially for Reed. I feel like for Johnny, they're going to do well.
I think Johnny is going to be the intentional comedy. I think Reed is going to have some unintentional comedy.
Yeah, I feel like,
but probably a lot in the way that he plays off of Ben Grimm.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a lot like the Cap Iron Man dynamic, where like Cap and Iron Man had a lot of funny scenes. Like obviously Iron Man was the more funnier one, but it's just because of how they bounced off each other.
I like to think that Trank has learned a little bit from Man of Steel, because Man of Steel had less jokes than the Nolan Batman movies, but I like to think that they've looked at that and they look at the critical response and it feels like wooden and unhuman.
Yeah.
And yes, this can be a sci-fi horror movie as much as you want it to be. It can be gritty. I mean, it doesn't look necessarily like overall like very gritty in this trailer to me. And I mean, it looks realistic, but it doesn't look gritty in that kind of way. But I kind of think that there are going to be some lighthearted moments. There are going to be, especially with Reed and the amazement. Maybe shit goes down and things get serious, and then sort of some of the lightheartedness fades until the end. But there's definitely got to be some. I mean, the thing is, this wasn't a great trailer to me. This was a good trailer. It didn't show us too much. It teased us. It did what it was supposed to do, and that's get people talking. And that's enough for me right now.
Quick note,
I
was looking at that final scene where we're in the end zone again, and there's actually something in that energy beam. Believe it or not, very interesting. It kind of looks like a bird, very small plane-ish. Looking at the costume for Johnny Storm, Mr. Fantastic.
There is something there.
They're really the only ones that have a specialized costume, so to speak. I really like it. I wasn't expecting full blown. I feel like maybe in the second movie we'll get, or maybe very very much at the end of this movie, we'll definitely get a much more like the comics one. But this is fine. Like they already said in promotion, containment suit.
I mean, the thing is, this is an origin film. This is how they became the Fantastic Four. And I don't think they're saving the world out of, we want to be heroes, we want to do what's right. This is necessity.
Yeah.
They're saving the world because they have to. Because they're the only ones that can save the world, because they were created by this same sort of, like, entity, maybe, or the end zone, whatever you want to call it. But I think we'll see them become the Fantastic Four in later movies. It's just this is an origin movie. It's kind of like, although maybe not to a certain extent, but like Iron Man 1. Iron Man wasn't being a hero because he could, although there were some scenes where he did do that. It was mainly he stopped Obadiah Stane because he had to. So, I mean, that's just my thoughts. Those are my final thoughts on the trailer. It was good. I'm going to go see it. I'm excited for this movie. It's not my most anticipated because Avengers Age of Ultron is still coming up, but it is. I'm looking forward to it. And I think you can't judge a book by its cover. And I think this is good. So, any final thoughts, Josh?
CJ, I'll be making sure we both have free tickets.
Yes! And then we'll do our review. But, all right, so that about wraps it up. Signing off, I'm CJ.
This is Josh.
And we'll see you next time to break down the next trailer.
See you guys later. Hey guys, subscribe if you haven't yet. Like the video if you liked it, obviously. Share it on social media. Speaking of social media, we have a Twitter, so follow us on Twitter. We have a Facebook, so like us on Facebook. We do a lot on the social medias that we don't do on YouTube in particular. And we'll see you guys next time.